welcome to Greenfire Games review video for Doom the board game, put out by Fantasy Flight Games. So, what did you guys think of the game in general?
I liked it. I think there's some neat mechanics with how we decide moving and shooting with the hand management aspect of it. I think one of the advantages to it is it easily can, especially with AP type players, you're limiting your field of options. And as we discussed at one point, Gio, how the initiative order, you really can't make a solid plan each time that you play. So there's some neat aspects to that, a lot of off-the-fly kind of concepts in terms of being able to play the game. Real simple damage and defense, I like that. Doesn't seem that hard to really get into. Pretty straightforward, I thought.
Yeah, I was so impressed when I first got the game that when I opened up the box, sat down to read the Learn to Play rules, I knew how to play in 15 minutes. Having played the original Doom the board game, that really surprised me because that was a fairly complex game. It had a lot of different things going on in the box. I feel like this is a really interesting, streamlined version of that first version of the game. And the first version of Doom eventually became Descent Journeys into Dark, which became Imperial Assault. So they've just been refining that system over and over. I'm real happy with this particular product.
So this being the first time I've played the Invaders, it was interesting the difference between a Marine play and an Invader play. Getting the cards, you get 6 cards as opposed to the 3 or 4, depending on how many players. It was really interesting seeing the cards, and you got to know what you have and when to play. So this being the first time I played it, it took me a turn or two to kind of understand the style of play I had to go against. Playing certain cards during activations and before activations, or as soon as something happens, trying to get something out there to make my following attacks make more sense, or have more effect on the situation. So, but all in all, the figures are amazing quality, like usual. Fantasy Flight, they like to do that. But as far as everything else goes, the game was really fun, easy to learn. Like we mentioned, the tutorial mission. It's always nice when a game puts out a tutorial mission, something that doesn't really mean anything in the game as a whole, but at least allows players to learn the game while they play. Anything that lets you learn and play is always going to be a good one. So.
Yeah, it gives you a real good handle of the core mechanics, so that when you start adding the more advanced stuff, it's not a huge leap. They don't throw everything at you all at once. Also, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, having to do with the decks like you talked about, it's different every time you play. I had never played a Marine before. I'm always the Invaders. And it was interesting to see that there's a card that I use all the time as the Invaders that didn't even come up for you. You kept getting them as defense cards, was Overwhelming Power, which is before you roll for an attack, you add 1 black die to the roll. And that would have been really devastating for us had that come up as often as it does for me when I'm playing. And the fact that when you play for the Marines, you don't have cards that let you do that. There's not a lot of re-rolling the dice for us. There's not a lot of adding dice for us. It's just, this is what it is. With the exception of some cards that let you hit another figure adjacent to the character.
Like the rocket launcher I didn't get to use.
Yes.
You used it once.
I did get to use it once,
Yes.
that is right.
And that, that's one of them. You don't just have the option of hitting a figure adjacent. You're required to hit all figures adjacent, which is why you don't want to be next to them when you're using it.
Unless someone keeps putting darkness out almost every turn. I think one of the other interesting things about the game specifically, and I mentioned this before, but with how the defense cards come up, where your deck of cards is built up and the top undrawn one happens to be that defense card, which would really stink. Like for example, when I just picked up the rocket launcher, if I didn't have to draw any cards, that would have been horrible because my first 2 or 3 rocket launcher cards would have then been discarded. So it's interesting. There's like a little element of hand and deck management to it, just from that sense. But again, it's very streamlined. There's not roll the attack dice, roll the defense dice. No, it's roll the attack dice and then flip that top card. Maybe you have, I think I had the armor card once, you had it once, which allowed us to, mitigate a little bit of damage. I still died once. But all in all, fun game, quick, easy to play.
Yeah.
Miniature quality was great, as with all Final Fantasy or Fantasy Flight products. The boards are excellent. Cards have that nice linen finish on it. So very typical high quality FFG.
Yeah. One thing I will say is you definitely want to make sure that you sleeve your cards for this game, because this, more than most, you are constantly shuffling your deck.
Yeah.
Your deck's only 10 cards, and if you've got 3 in your hand and you're milling other ones for defense, you're constantly fussing and shuffling. So in order to save the life of the game, which I can see myself playing a lot,
Yeah,
I definitely wanted to make sure I put some kind of protection on those.
I would agree.
Right, definitely.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts on the game?
I think I pretty much said what I thought. I enjoyed it. Great. I don't think it takes much. You probably, I know my son would easily be able to play this. That wouldn't be a problem. So, a decent game for all ages.
And your son is?
He's 11,
11,
but to be
okay.
fair, he's also a little bit. He's been playing games since 6. So
Sure.
yeah.
No, but I would agree with you in that aspect. This game, with the way the rules are set up and along with the tutorial mission, it's a game that you can use to introduce someone to newer style board games.
Yes. This is a great entry point for someone that's might be interested in learning how to play D&D. You know, playing a game like this that has a dungeon crawl feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, the theming is great. It's the whole Doom universe is just so much fun.
This would probably be a great entry, or at least a secondary game into board gaming for video gamers, like anyone that likes a first-person shooters,
Sure.
original Doom games, because you have that kind of feel in the gameplay, and you've got some familiar theming
Yes.
with video games going right to the board game market.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't wait to jump into the rest of the missions, because it comes with the one, prologue, the tutorial mission, and then it comes with 2 operations, each with 6 missions in it.
Cool.
And in those, you're using different invader decks, and you can have different weapons for the Marines. So it adds, again, that variance to the gameplay. I'm super excited to really dig into it. All right. Well, it sounds like all of us are real big on this game. We're proponents of it. I'd love to see more people playing it myself. I'm also interested to see if they come up with squad-based skirmish rules for a PvP version, for some kind of organized play the way they have for something like Imperial Assault. Yeah. So if you have any questions or comments about the game, go ahead and leave them below. Make sure to check out our Facebook page, Greenfire Games, our website, greenfiregames.net, for any more news that we're going to be coming out with for the board game industry. It's the Headmaster here with Ken and Gio. Thanks for watching, everyone.